Sydney Kaplan.
Hi.
Welcome to Seeing Other People.
Thank you so much.
This is years overdue. I'm also in shock that this is the first time we're meeting in real life.
I know. And it's kind of like, I mean, you probably don't feel this way about me, but I feel this way about you. I'm just like, oh my God, you're kind of famous. Like, I listen to you all the time. And then like I meet you, I'm like, oh my God, she's just like she is in the podcast.
I am. Spoiler alert, just like I am on the podcast. But I feel like it's been like 3 years of us like sort of knowing each other.
Totally. Yeah. I like because when I tell people I was going on a podcast, they're like, oh, who's like, how did you do that? I'm like, oh, well, we know each other. I'm like, wait, but like, do we?
Like we do.
We just follow each other.
Yeah.
And then you were on my podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, well, when I started talking about my book, like I remember I was telling you about this guy situation back in like 2020. And that's like what I based my book about.
Oh my God. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So I pitched Alana. I was like, I would love to come on your podcast. Like I wrote a book, and first of all, like not me going on a fake press tour for a book that literally like may or may not get published. Like literally, like you think you're good at manifesting? Watch me roll out an entire PR launch strategy.
But that's how it's gonna work. That's how it's gonna happen.
I'm just delusionally like so this is the first step on my like launch tour.
I love it. Wow, honored to be the first stop. And you know what? When it like comes out, blows up, I'll be the last stop too.
Totally.
Except never last because it's not ever going to end.
Yes. I'll just be writing more books and going on more press tours.
Yeah. You stopped the podcast.
I did, which like sometimes people make me feel guilty about. They're like, oh my God, bring it back. And I'm like, shoot, like that makes me feel bad. But basically like, I started over the pandemic when I wasn't working. And like I started like growing a following on TikTok, and I started a podcast. And then I started working 9 to 5, and it just wasn't.
It's not sustainable.
Like once I came back to New York and I was actually socializing again, I was just like, my heart isn't in this. And I also did the thing that I shouldn't have done, which is have like imposter syndrome and be like, what makes my podcast like different? Like this is dumb. So I stopped. But I feel like I'm glad that and also humble brag, like it was in the Daily Mail within like the first like 2 like month that I did it. So
wait, that's
like
amazing.
I know. So I'm like, wait, it actually could have like grown. But yeah, I think that once I got my 9 to 5, I was like, you know what? I don't really want to pursue that like creator path. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm happy to just like have a 9 to 5. And now, here I am, like completely
fast forward, 180.
Fast forward, like now I'm fully like pursuing that path, because I feel like in 2020, like when I started to post on TikTok, it was kind of like I didn't really have like a why. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, this is fun, and like I feel like this could make me money, and like I feel like this could work with my skill set, whatever. But I didn't really have. I don't know. I feel like the reason I want to do it was to like make money, like
right.
Which isn't. But now my like why is like I want to like relate with people through my writing, and like I want to get like I said, like I wrote a book, like I want to use social media to like promote it and like relate to people. So now I'm more clear on like why I would want a platform.
Yeah. And
I feel like you need that in order to like care enough.
Totally. And you know what? It makes sense why you stopped when you did and why you're back now.
Yeah.
Because there's purpose behind it. Because
exactly.
You find it meaningful and have value to provide and want to connect with people.
Totally. So yeah, I mean, I feel that way now because I'm like I just got laid off in March. So since March is when I've been going kind of like hard at it and like being like, okay, I'm posting like 3 times a day on TikTok, once a day on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm like, in this inspired like spot, and whereas you are feeling like demotivated. So it's like, famous last words.
It's funny. Yeah. I'm in the phase of like imposter syndrome, like what makes my podcast different.
Which, no, your podcast is different though.
Thank you.
I love like both Life in Progress and Seeing Other People.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That means a lot.
Of course.
I still can't believe, right before we pressed record, I found out that she's 31. Literally, I swear to God, in my mind, you were 26. You've always been 26 to me. When I was 26, you were 26. Now I'm 29. You're still 26, but you're 31.
And like I think the reason that people think I'm younger is because I've never gotten anything done. Like I think I no, but you know what I mean? Like people, and obviously people that get Botox and filler look amazing.
Oh, like that.
Oh, sorry. What did you think
like
I meant?
Stop. Like, what are you talking about?
No, sorry, because I've never gotten any like plastic surgery, and I honestly think it makes me look younger.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Which like I did get this place, plug the Brightwood Skin, they messaged me on TikTok and they're like, we'd love to offer you like Botox or filler for free, like in exchange for a post. And then I like saw them in person. They gave me this whole what's called like consultation, like told me where I should get it, and they're like, you are a candidate. And I was like, I just want to hold off until I look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, this is different than what I would like to
Do
look like.
you feel like pressure? Because I haven't had anything done either, but I constantly feel pressure. I'll be like talking to people and they'll be like, oh yeah, like I only let my dermatologist do my Botox. I'm like, I had no idea you got Botox. And I just feel like it's something that everyone is doing, and there's something wrong with me for not wanting to do it.
Totally. No, I don't know if it's pressure or if it's like, wait, that person actually looks good. Like, like, lip filler, it looks good. Like, your lips look plump as fuck. Like, good for you. And I'm like, but then I just go back to like, but then it's always going to be something else. It's like, okay, I'll get filler, and then I'll be like, now I need it here. So, but I do. I'm like, I don't know if it's pressure, if it's more just like FOMO. Like, I'm like, oh, that could be like a fun, like that sounds fun, Like, go get a little tweak. But I need to hold off.
It's expensive. And like, I feel like once you do one thing, it's your gateway drug to doing anything else.
Totally. So I'm just trying to be like down to earth and not get it done. But then it's like, then it does stress me out when they're like, oh, you should get it now because then you won't have to get as much like product
is that even
or whatever.
true? Like preventative?
I know. I'm like,
maybe.
Yeah, like
I don't know.
Who's to say?
I had like 2 months before my wedding. I was like, wait, like should I be doing something? Yeah. And I kind of panicked and was like, maybe I should, and I didn't. And I'm so glad that I didn't. Yeah, I just don't need to. And like, no knock to anyone who does it. Like, by all means, go for it. Maybe I'm also afraid like of the needles. I don't know.
Yeah. It's scary. It's not normal. You're literally putting like a type of, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but that can't be like good for you. Like Botox, it's like, I mean, I don't think it's bad. Like, don't come for me. Like, I'm not saying it's like bad.
We're not judging anyone who gets it.
I don't know. Like, do I want to be putting Botox in my face for 40 plus years?
Right. Like, once we start, we're not going to stop.
Exactly. So I'm just like, I'm trying to just go with it.
Yeah.
For as long as I can. But wow.
And getting things done in terms of your actual life.
Yes, getting things. Yeah.
It's so funny. But yeah, so you're 31.
Yeah, I'm 31.
You're single.
I'm single. Hi,
living in New York City.
Yeah, but I was just talking to her dog. Her dog is so cute.
Barkley
living in
is
New York
being
City.
A sweet boy so right now.
He's looking into my eyes. I haven't had this kind of attention.
Maybe you're finding love at first sight right now. You haven't had this kind of attention from a man in a while.
Literally. Yeah, so I'm 31. I'm from Massachusetts. I went to University of Vermont. After that, I moved to San Francisco, and I lived there for 2 years. Everyone hates on San Francisco. It was like a super fun 2 years. I knew it wasn't like my forever place at all. It was just like a fun adventure. But yeah, dating in San Francisco I gave up on it pretty soon. Like when I started, like just because I started dating. Everyone there is like literally, the stereotype is true. They just talk about their tech job. And I was just like, I'm 22. Like, I'm not going to be here forever. I kind of was just like having fun, like exploring San Francisco, whatever. It just wasn't like that big of a focus for me. And then, I moved to New York after that. And I've been here ever since with like brief stints in London and brief stints in LA, which are both times that I like hit rock bottom, I would say. So my book, did I already say my book is called Rock Bottom Has Palm Trees? And it's kind of about hitting rock bottom in life. It's about this girl who moves to LA and she reconnects with this guy that she had a crush on in middle school. And she always thought that he was just like the coolest person ever. And they reconnect in LA. Now he's this like Beverly Hills hotshot, and they meet on Hinge and they fall in love, and then he ghosts her. It's kind of about like what happens after that. And it's based off of when I went to LA and I was dating someone that I really liked and he ghosted me. And looking back, like that was just a psychotic time. Like 2020 pandemic, we were all like so lonely. Why? Like I just didn't want to be home in Massachusetts, so I like went to LA and I was like, oh, I'll just stay here for like a month. But then basically what happened was like, he ghosted me, and then I was like, I really wanted to leave LA, but I was like, no, I can't leave because of a guy. So then I like stayed another month, and then I ended up getting the vaccine, and then I had to stay for another month to get it again. So it was just like, I don't need to be here. I think I ended up being in LA for like 3.5 months. I wanted to leave after like the first 3 weeks. But yes, so that was, it's kind of funny though, because like I was so devastated when this happened. I was 27, which is like probably too old to be like that naive, but like but it was also like younger than I am now.
But I don't think there's ever an age where it's like you can't or shouldn't get as upset, because it's so relative. Like when you're feeling that and you get your hopes up, especially in like a difficult time, like it's so hard to not put all of your everything into it.
Yeah. So like, but like if I had met him now and he had acted that insane, like I would have been right off the bat like, oh my God, this is not, I can't take this guy seriously. So, and what I mean by insane is like, on our first date, he literally was asking me rapid fire questions like, do you want to get married? Do you want kids? Like he was like, I'm looking for houses to buy because like I'm thinking about like where I want to send my kids to school. Like does that sound okay with you? Like on the first date. And he also was literally like messaging me even before, so we matched on Hinge, and I hadn't even moved to LA yet. I was like, I'm moving in a couple weeks. And then he was messaging me like, I can't wait to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Like just being so, which, you know, is nice. But then it's like when I met him and I saw how erratic and like impulsive he was, like instead of leaning into that, like now I would be like, whoa,
you'd be turned off by that.
I would be so turned off, and I would pump the brakes, but at the time I was like, oh my God, like this is it. Like
he knows what he
like,
wants.
Yeah.
He's acting as if like maybe he wants it with me.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, like, so I was 27, he was 36.
Oh wow.
So it's like, bro, like calm down, calm the fuck down. And he was just like, he would just say things that were like so, like what else would he say? He would just be like, I've never hung out with someone like 2 days in a row like this. Like, you know, just like shit like that is just so, you know, it's just not realistic to like, he was just egging me on, like making me feel like he was gonna like fucking marry me after. Yeah. And again, now I would not let that happen, and I would like see the signs. But anyway, after all that, and like he ghosted me, and it was just, I couldn't, like being in LA, I didn't have, like I did know some people there, but LA is so spread out. I don't know if you've spent time there. It's it's not good for like just quickly catching, like being like, oh, let's go grab brunch. No, you have to.
You got to really work around people's schedules and traffic and find a place that works for both of you, because you probably live like an hour away, even though you're 5 miles away.
Totally. So I just wasn't like meeting up with any of my friends, and like I was just by myself, and I didn't have like any distraction. And like my job was obviously remote, and like it was not good. But anyway, point being, like obviously I wrote my book based off of this experience, obviously made it a lot more interesting than just that one. And it's fiction. But now it's kind of funny, because now like as I'm editing my book, I'm just like, oh my God, like who, because obviously the main character is very upset about that this happened, and I'm just like editing it, I'm like, oh my God, can she just like get over it? Like who cares? And like I can't access those feelings anymore. It's so crazy. But it's like at the time I was like, I will never get over this.
It really feels like the world is ending.
Yeah. I really like felt so depressed, and just like, yeah, it was just like a mix of that and like not having enough like purpose in my day. So yeah, I used to be like so anti-ghosting. I was like, that's disgusting. How could you do that? As I've gotten older, I've kind of, first of all, I've realized that when someone ghosts you, it's usually not because they're like, fuck you, I hate you. It's because they can't like decide. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I've come to the realization that if a guy ghosts me, they're not like purposefully being mean. They're not like, this girl, they're not thinking in their mind like,
they're not thinking, this girl doesn't deserve my text.
Yeah, they probably are just like, they literally can't. And obviously if someone ghosts you, you should move on, because you're like, they don't care enough. They don't care enough. But I've just realized that it's more complicated than just like them being like, fuck this person, I'm not answering. It's like they probably look and they're like, I'm gonna answer, and then they just never do because they can't decide. And then and it's like, there's your answer. That's one thing that I've learned. And I've also learned that, and this is with friendships too, when people just aren't giving you their energy, like when I was younger, I just feel like I would get so mad and I would get so upset, and I was like, how could they just like pull away from me and not tell me what's going on? But now I just more try and adopt the mentality of like, this person is giving me what they want to give me, so I need to like outsource and I need to give what I get.
Yeah.
So like, if this friend or this guy is just not giving me what I want, it's time for me to mentally move on. And like, I'm not gonna, if someone's not answering my texts and, you know, say I'm like with some friends and then they finally text me back, I'm gonna put my phone away and continue doing what I was doing in my present life, because I'm not gonna give you the energy that you don't give me. So like, I've kind of tried to, and this isn't to say like just get over it if you get ghosted. I still think it's bad, and like, have I kind of done it? Yes, and it's so disrespectful and it's so wrong. But unfortunately, I feel like in life, like, people just don't give you what you want, and like, we've all had to learn that lesson so much. And it's like, if you like outsource and like try and like put your energy into other people and try and like kind of fix the problem on your own, like, it will actually, I think, make you feel better. That's to say, like, if it's like a friend that's doing this to you and you really care about them and it's you want to save the friendship, yes, you should talk to them.
Of course.
But like, in the meantime, I think just kind of having a pep talk with yourself and being like, this is not that she's not giving me, like, I'm gonna give her or him the energy that they're giving me.
Yeah, because anything else, like, why are you going to go above and beyond for somebody who's giving you the bare minimum?
Yeah. And like, that's what I used to do. I feel like sometimes I used to think like, oh, if I like kind of set an example for how to act, they'll follow along. And it's like, fuck no.
Why? We don't have to train somebody.
No, totally.
Yeah.
So I just think, and it just like makes me feel better when I'm like, I don't know, but is that like petty?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's you. Here's what I've been thinking this whole time. You're definitely 31, not 26.
Yeah,
is my takeaway. That's
God,
my takeaway. You're so welcome.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm trying to think of how I even got to that realization.
I think part of it is from like hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
And from having to build yourself back up and really figure out. I think this is one of the beauties of hitting rock bottom. One of the palm trees in it.
Yeah.
Is,
oh my God, that was beautiful.
You have to work so hard to build yourself back up.
Yeah.
And you don't want to ever let anybody or anything knock you back down that far.
Yeah. And that's something that I feel like being single, that is just a part of being single. It's like, you're just getting knocked down so many times. And you just have to like be so resilient. And that's something that I feel like you have to check yourself and not become bitter about that. Like, I'm talking to myself, like, because, you know, sometimes I just feel like I have like people in my life that I feel like they've never lived alone. They've like barely ever been single. They've never gone through, you know, they have like, I'm not the girl that was like in a sorority and like moved to New York and then like just had my sorority friends who like I knew would be there. Like, I've always had to like meet new people, do things. So it's just like, sometimes I'm like, like, it's just hard sometimes to like, I feel like I don't know if I want like credit or like,
you've put in a lot of work. You've done a lot of work that a lot of other people, for better or for worse, just coasted.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, so I don't know what it is, if I like want credit or what it is, but I just like to meet other people who like also have like lived alone and like moved to New York, and they're not like, they're from a different place and they didn't have this like security blanket and like they date and meet new people, and like that's just something. Like, when I'm in like a rock bottom phase, that's something that I can get pretty like frustrated about and like bitter about, is like, why do I have to go to another thing where everyone has their like partner and I have to like, and you know, some people are like great to third wheel with and some people just aren't, and like when you just have to be around those people that are just laid on so thick with the relationship stuff, you're just like, oh my God, like I can't. So that's why you just need different people in your life who like, you know, you have your friends who are single, you have your friends who are in relationships and lay it on a little more thick and like whatever. But just like to any like girl who's like been, because I've been single, like, so when I was 22, I graduated from Vermont. I lived in Vermont over the summer, dated a guy, my favorite boyfriend, shout out. He was great.
You never hear that these days. I love that.
He was like totally, Yeah. I mean, probably because we didn't date for a long time, so I didn't have time to like see his bad side. And then I was literally single up until I was 29.
Oh, wow.
Or 28, like basically 29. And I dated that person for a year and then like have been single. And so like I've just been at it for like a long time.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like I love the feeling of like being independent. That's something I realized about myself, and like being free to like meet up and like not be constricted by like one group of friends. Like I love like bopping around, like being around different types of people. So that's something like I really thrive off of. Not everyone does, and that's totally fine. But yeah, just so anyway, it's been like a long, like sometimes again when I'm just in those like moods, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to another event like by myself. So anyway, it's nice to relate, like to have friends who also like are single and like get that.
And it sounds like in many ways throughout the different chapters of your life, you've had to create your own security blankets, whether it's, you know, becoming independent, whether it's having the strength to put your phone down when somebody finally texts you back and to, you know, stay in your own lane and not immediately like change your mood, or whether it's having friends in different places. Yeah. It sounds like you've done what you've needed to do to like protect yourself and keep your cup full. Yeah.
Do you feel like most of your friends are in relationships, or like do you?
At this point, most of my friends, like we had 15 weddings last year. Oh. Yeah. So a lot of my friends got married. We have a few more weddings this year. But then I have friends who are very single as well.
Yeah. So what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And I just want to say I also feel for the people like who are in those groups of friends, like that were in that sorority and then have a group of friends and like all
everyone's
their friends
in relationships.
And they're not. Like that looks like my personal hell because
my favorite story, and I probably shared this on the podcast, but for anyone who hasn't heard it and for you, I have a friend who, when our first year out of college, she was in this like very tight-knit group of 5 girls from her sorority, and she was the only single one. And they would make her feel bad about it. Like, you're missing out. Like, it's so, like, we all go on these, like, quadruple dates. Like, we wish you,
say that?
Like, we wish you had somebody. And then, like, obviously she was already feeling that. And then they would make her feel, like, even worse about not having somebody. And then fast forward, like, 6 to 9 months later, she meets somebody, gets into a relationship. They all become single. And then they're all going out and they're like, oh, you're missing out on like the best time in our lives where we're all like single together going out at night. And it's like, you can't win. And that's why you have to like do and be in the mindset of like, your timeline is your timeline, and what someone else is doing, even if it seems like it's what everyone else is doing, like it does not matter. And I think about this, I mean, I do think about like when I'm at weddings, because I went to like one wedding alone when Jake couldn't come. But like in my wedding era with all my friends getting married, like I have had Jake by my side. Yeah. And I often think about like, I know I would not do well single. Yeah. In this period of my life. And I really do feel for the people who are going through that and who don't want to be single, but are and have to watch all these other people around them finding love. But as sucks to say, and listen, I just got married and I'm saying it's like, not all these relationships are going to last.
Yeah, 100%.
Statistically. Yeah. They're not all going to last.
They're not. Yeah.
And there are some people who just want to get married so badly.
Yeah, and it's so
that
obvious.
They're just doing it.
Yeah.
And I would rather be single than end up with the wrong person.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like I physically can't be around someone that I'm not pumped about. Mm-hmm. So like I've tried, like I love Logan Yuri, who has been on your podcast. And her whole thing is like, find a great person and make your dream relationship. Like, stop trying to find your dream person. So I dated someone and I was like, this is a great person. Mm-hmm. And I tried and tried. And I never, like, I feel like when you talk about Jake, you talk about how your third date was like that flipping point. Mm-hmm. I kept waiting for the flipping point and I was like, it'll come. And it just never did.
With somebody who long-term like compatibility is not there, like, you can't make a great relationship happen.
Yeah.
But it's good to keep in mind that like the perfect person, quote unquote, like might not exist.
Right.
They probably don't. Yeah. It's about finding somebody that is good enough that you feel great around and you could enjoy life with.
Yeah. Like but like when you talk about how like your first 2 days with Jake, you weren't
They were
like,
fine.
yeah, they were fine. But then like you got to a point where you're pumped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I feel like I've listened to so much like dating advice because I'm just like into like the podcast and all this and like the books that it's almost like fucked with my head a little bit because
there's
like,
so much contradicting advice out there.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
And it's just like, oh my God, like I'm trying to be like a good person and just like, you know, stop focusing on like the shallow things. But
sometimes you're hearing if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no, and then other times you're hearing if it's not a fuck no, it's a like keep going.
Right. And it's like, yeah, I think the conclusion I've come to is just like I need to have that like excitement a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I want some, especially after my last relationship, which like, like I don't know if you've ever dated someone you're just like, how was that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I dated him for a year. I'm like, what was that? Anyway, so I'm like, after that, like I deserve to be with someone that I'm just like really like attracted to and like that we have that like that romantic energy. Like I've tried to like make it work with people that I didn't feel the romantic connection with, and it just, I think I was being like too hard on myself because I listened to all this advice. And it's like you just have to like, it's like do you want the, and you know I am glad that like I saw it through with some of those people that I was, because when you're in that maybe mindset, like you should see it through, but then once it gets to the point where you're just like, I don't care if I see this person again.
If you're not excited, like if you have a date planned for Monday night, it's like a third date with somebody or a fourth date even, and all weekend you're like, oh, like I have this date. I don't like if you are feeling that way, like I don't want to go. Yeah, like but like if you like so like rude to cancel, like I have nothing to wear. Yeah. Like I just don't want to go. Yeah. Like then don't go. You have to trust your gut.
Yeah.
You have to trust your gut. But if you went on a date or two with somebody and like you're not sure if there's something there or not, but you enjoyed your time with them enough that like it wouldn't kill you to see them again. Like, yeah, keep exploring it because I am such a firm believer that the best connections do grow over time.
Yes. So I was listening to You Up and they had on this comedian, I think, oh my God, what's her name? She was on that show, The Other Two.
Oh, I love The Other Two.
Right?
I'm so bad at the name game.
Is it Blair?
But that show is so good.
So funny.
It's like one of the funniest shows I've ever seen.
So funny, and also because it was literally my ex and his siblings. Like,
no way.
I was like, I don't know if I can watch this. It's like too close to home.
Oh
like,
my God, that's
just
so
the, like,
funny.
Pathetic, pathetic. What's a synonym for pathetic? Just like these siblings that are too old to be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was listening to that podcast and like someone wrote in and they literally were describing like what I was going through with this guy. They were like, but they were actually in a relationship with this person. So they were like, I'm dating this guy and he's like everything I've ever wanted, but I just don't have that like excited feeling. And like I bring it up to him and he's like talks me off the edge, and he's like talks me off the ledge, whatever.
Yeah.
Either one. But she was just saying like I just don't feel that like romantic connection with him, but like I don't know if I'm just toxic because I've been in all these like toxic situationships and whatever. And Blair, I think her name's Blair. Sachi.
Let's call her Blair.
Yeah, let's call her. I mean, I feel bad because she's like a really like known comedian, and I'm like, she was saying how like her husband, she was like, he wasn't what I expected at all, but like once I realized it was him, like I was pumped. And she was like, this sounds like it's done. Like you're just not excited. And it's like, we're allowed. Anyone listening, we are allowed to meet someone that we are excited about. Like
somebody could be completely perfect on paper and you could want to like someone so badly that you try so hard, like you stick around, you go through the motions, and you still just like, it's not there.
Yeah, it's just not there. It's empty.
Not there. And it's so unfortunate because in a way, part of it is like you're mourning what could have been. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you were so close to accomplishing this thing in your life.
Yeah, and just being like done. But like, you can't fake that excitement.
You can't fake that, and you shouldn't have to force yourself to be with somebody.
Yeah.
It should feel like the most obvious decision in the world.
I love that. And like I like hearing advice from people who are like actually in healthy relationships, because I'm like, you can be in a healthy relationship that you're also excited about. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Like I feel like some of my friends when we talk, we're like, oh, but like I have to let go of like all these things that I want because it's like I want something that's healthy and calm. And I'm like, I think you can have. I've had both.
You can have both.
Yeah.
And listen, like I don't feel every day of like so excited,
No.
but I feel like so lucky
Yeah,
that I get
lucky.
to hang out with my best friend for the rest of my life.
I love that. Like lucky. I think the best relationships have been when I've been with someone. I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky. And like, let's be honest. Are you ever? I mean, you know, we have our blinders on when we're in relationships. You always think the person's like the best, but it's
even when
it's
they're
nice
the worst.
Yeah, it's nice to be delusional a little bit.
Yeah,
you can
sometimes.
I'm the luckiest person in the world. That's how you should feel. But we got into this topic because we were talking about like I really do also not envy those girls who have those like tight groups of friends and they're all moving on. Like I would probably settle down with the wrong guy too. Like if I like that's not fun. Like that sucks. I mean, also these people could also just like try and get out there and meet some more single people. But yeah, I just think that like it could be hard to not be influenced by like the way that your friend group is like changing.
Absolutely.
Like I'm sure like you've listened to like the Betches like podcast and like I feel like they're you know, just from listening to them for so long, they're like in a group of friends and like it just seems like they all are on the same exact phase of life together. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence.
Right.
Like it's because like your friends are getting married, you want to get married. Okay, your friends are buying a house, you want to buy a house. Your friends are having kids, you want to have kids. And like, I mean, I get it. That's like, I'm almost sometimes like I'm like, if I was more in that kind of situation, like maybe it would push me more to like kind of get the like be more like scared because like I mean like I said I go through phases. Like right now I'm kind of in a phase where I'm like chilling. I'm like I'll meet the person. There's like it's really not everyone gets married, so it's really not that unique. Like I'm not unique enough to where I'd end up alone because it's like no one ends up alone.
And if you wanted to be with somebody right now, you could be.
Yeah,
you could easily find somebody who would want to be with you, but you want to be with somebody who you really want to be with too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So should I tell another rock bottom?
I was just about to say. So LA boy was the first time you felt like you hit rock bottom.
Yeah. In terms of dating.
In terms of dating.
And then and that just it's so weird how long those feelings of like those feelings stayed with me. Like even when I was over him, it was still sometimes they would just creep back in of feeling like I'm not good enough, like I'm inadequate. Like it's really crazy what like these guys that you've known for like
100%
however long like can do like to
and
you.
I'm glad you said that because I think that's also an important thing to touch on is like something could have happened so long ago to you or like someone could have been in your life for such a short period, but that doesn't mean that like their impact is also short-lived. I mean, there are people who I obviously have very much moved on from my past who I still think about how much they hurt me. And I still wonder like why in what in their mind made them think like I wasn't enough.
And it's never that. Like
but it wasn't that. It wasn't that, but I still wonder, I'm like, do these people know how much they fucked me up?
Okay, so next rock bottom was London. Holy shit, that was such like a comically terrible experience. So I was working at this remote job and I was like desperately looking for new jobs. So I was like, I'm not going to be at this job forever. Like I want to take advantage of the fact that it's remote and do like a couple months in Europe. Because I had visited my friends in London over the summer and I was like, this is amazing. Like what's 1 or 2 months, whatever. And it's like kind of, I don't want to say it's cheaper, but you can get more bang for your buck.
It's also just an awesome experience.
Yeah, it's just a cool experience. Anyway, so like it was so bad. So I'm in London, like the people that I knew like weren't in London, which I knew like to not like, you know, put all my eggs in one basket and like, you know, rely on. I knew that there was a chance that maybe they wouldn't be there for the time that I was there. But I was like, you know, that's fine. Like I still know some like other people, like my friends connect me with some people, but it just like same thing as it was in LA. It's like there weren't enough people around to like hang out, do whatever. So that just like kind of sucked. And also the dating situation in London is not what you would expect. You would think that British guys are like gentlemen. It's a culture there that like you just like hook up like immediately, like over the app, and this isn't like 1 or 2 or 3 people on the apps. This was every guy on the apps was so like sexual right away and didn't want to take me out. Maybe because like they knew I was American and they didn't like care about me or something. But it was alarming, like how disgusting these guys on Hinge were. And like, I'm not saying that guys in New York are like, you know, like princes walking around, but they at least in New York, they'll be like, do you want to do drinks?
Yeah.
And then they'll try and use you for sex. But in London, they just went straight to like that. And I was like, okay, I was like, you know, if my friends aren't around, I'll go on a bunch of dates. And I was just like, I don't want to go out with these disgusting people. Like it's anyone who knows about like London culture, please DM me and tell me that I'm not crazy. Like it was crazy. So, okay, so there's that. And then I finally matched with this one guy who was nice and like wanted to take me out. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, and he looked like Jonah Hill when he like before he became like that cool surfer guy and lost weight. So just kind of, you know, it wasn't my type, but I was like, he's at least being nice
like,
to me.
He's nice. Like, okay, I'll go out.
So and at this point, I just wasn't happy in London. Oh, and also big thing to note, I moved to London on October 4th, and then 3 days later, obviously October 7th happened, and it was just really scary in London. And my roommate, who we'll get to, because I live by myself in New York, but if I was moving to London temporarily, I was like, I'll just live with someone. She lived in like a 4-story house, so I was like, it's not even gonna be an issue. It was an issue. Oh God. I don't know if she wanted to be like involved or whatever, but she literally texted me one night on like a couple days after October 7th and was like, hey, FYI, high terrorist alert in the area. Just be careful. I'm like, you don't casually text me that. Yeah. Like I was out. I saw the Taylor Swift movie by myself and I was like out trying to get home. And that's when she sent me that text. I was like, are you like dumb? Like that's kind of a harsh. Like, it's just very unaware. Yeah. Hey, FYI, some terrorists, like, in there. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. Also, my roommate was unemployed and didn't have any friends. This is, like, she told me this. Like, she was like, I don't really have friends. And she had an 68-year-old boyfriend.
Oh, my God. Okay.
And she was 28. And she did not tell me this before I moved across the country, or to another continent. She told me that she was always gone and that like she was always at her boyfriend's. And then I moved and she's like, by the way, like my boyfriend is 68 years old and he was like, always coming over and he wasn't even, I know you're thinking, oh, sugar daddy. I don't think he was wealthy. He literally just they met at work and like I'm like, girl, you got me too'd. Like this isn't like this is creepy. Crazy. And like I'm like, I don't want to hang out with this old guy. Like I don't want to meet your boyfriend. Like this is weird. And so she was and she, you know, upon meeting her, told me that she like overthinks everything and like can get a little crazy. But I'm like, oh, same. No. Okay. So I go out with this Jonah Hill type guy, and I'm like, oh, you're disgusting. Like I hate it when guys like wear a button down and they leave it like unbuttoned and you can see all their hairy chest. It like
I don't like that either.
It's like a certain type of guy that does that.
Yeah.
And then he also like made a point on the apps to tell me that he's British, but when I met him he had a Scottish accent. So I was like, why would you like lie about that? So he just right off the bat was so incredibly crude and like he couldn't handle that I was 1 year older than him. At the time I was 30 and he was 29. Couldn't get over it. He was like, wow, like don't you think it's time for you to get married? Like what? Yeah. He was the worst person I've ever met. And then he also started talking about October 7th like in detail, and I was getting like I was like, can we just
I'm uncomfortable hearing about it.
Yeah. I started to get literally emotional. And also I hadn't eaten, like I was very hungry, and so, you know, on my first sip I was like tipsy. And I literally was like crying. Like I'm crying. And I'm like, oh my God, I know, let's just like change the subject. It's really like tough to talk about. And he just kept going. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Literally. And he would like tell a joke I mean, it wasn't funny. In his mind, it was a joke. And then he would go, that was a good one. Like patting himself on the back.
I'm dead.
Literally like the worst person I've ever met. And then was embarrassing on my part. I'm new to oysters, but I like oysters, but I'm new to the game, and I put on like too much vinegar. And so like I had this oyster and I started like coughing like pretty uncontrollably, and it was really embarrassing. And he starts like patting me on the back, like pounding my back. And I'm like, ow, 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 no, it's fine. And I really like couldn't stop coughing. But then I finally like stop. And then the waiter comes over and he's like, we need bread, pronto, like being a dick. And I like butted in. I was like, no, you, like it's fine. Like take your time. I'm fine. He goes, I really wish you wouldn't have butted in. Yeah. And I was like, oh, sorry. I just like didn't want to rush her that much because I'm literally fine. And he was like, I really wish you wouldn't have butted in. And then he throws the menu at me and he goes, do you still want some food?
What?
And I go, I just don't like when people are rude to waiters. Like, it's fine. And he goes, that's so weak of you. Like, you're so weak. And I go, guess I'm weak. And he was like, you're not going to like me. And I'm like, you're not.
You're like, I already don't. You're right.
Yeah, I was like, you're right, I don't. And then I got up and left. And yeah. And like, I blocked him everywhere, whatever. So that was just I was having such a bad time in London. And then that was like the cherry on top. So then I get home, and I don't know if you know, like the doors in London, they're different than the doors here. Like the way you lock them, it's apparently you like click this tiny little thing. Like no one ever taught me that, so I didn't know that. So the next morning I wake up and my roommate was like being really cold to me, and she also like randomly asked me if like I wanted to move out early that morning. And I was like I just don't really have anywhere to go. Like, no, I'm good. Thanks for offering though. Like what? And it was just so random. She was being so rude. So then that night, I'm like sitting in my room alone, as I always did in London. And I get this long voice note from her. And she was so rude. She's like, hey. And also she's a puss because she could have come and talked to me all day, but she came up with it. She was like, I figured you'd be working, so that's why I didn't come and talk to you. But also this is like a rich British girl, again, who is unemployed, living in a 4-story house in Notting Hill. Like I couldn't with her. Hey, I would have come and talked to you today, but figured you were working. I know you had someone over last night, so I just think that this probably isn't the right setting for you. And I think that like if you want to have people over, you should really find somewhere else to live. And you signed the lease and you said you wouldn't have anyone over. It's literally like over a minute long. Wait, no.
You didn't have anyone over?
No, I came home crying by myself. Like, are you crazy? And so I'm also like, was someone in our apartment?
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
Should I be concerned?
Literally. So then I immediately go straight to her room to talk it out in person. And I'm like, hey, no one was here last night. And she goes, then why was the door unlocked? And I was like, what? I didn't know it was unlocked. She was like, so no one left in the morning and didn't lock the door? And I was like, absolutely not. You never taught me how to use that door. I thought I had been using it properly. I had no idea. And she wouldn't, like, she kept accusing me. She was like, well, I just don't know you. So I actually, like, I started to tell her about the night before. I was like, no, I actually had like a really bad night. Cause we had, you know, like traded some stories before, whatever, like whatever. And so I started to tell her, and she was like, okay, well, I mean, I just don't know you. So she wouldn't like admit that she was wrong, and she kept going hard on me, like being so rude. And she was talking to me as if it still happened. She was like, well, you signed a lease that said you wouldn't have people over. And I was like, I don't know how else to say. I didn't have anyone over last night.
Also, that's a crazy expectation.
Crazy. Like, I mean, well, 24 hours advance, like whatever. But it was just, I was like, you fucking bitch. Like, I move all the way. I'm the one who like is out of my comfort zone. Like, and then after that, she was just up my ass, like about everything. Like, hey, do you do this? Do you do? And I'm like, oh my God.
I think you need to stop moving to other places for a few months at a time.
No, literally. Like, I was like, I've learned my lesson. Every time I leave New York,
bad things happen.
And also, there's a whole second part to that story, which is that, and I actually wrote about it on my Substack if you want to read it. So after the date with that guy, I the people sitting behind me, I went back to go talk to them because they like saw it, and I was like tipsy, and I was like, I want to gossip about what just happened. They actually were like Julia Fox's, because Julia Fox was on her book tour, and they like work with her, and some crazy shit like kind of happened with them that also not with them, but with one of their boyfriends that made me like really like more upset. It was like a drunken like whatever. So I just had a really bad night. And yeah, that was like I think the perfect equation for like a rock bottom moment is just like not having your people around you, not having enough to do during the day, and just like, yeah, when you just keep getting in situations that you think are gonna be like, okay, this is gonna be the turning point, this is when things are gonna get like awesome, and then it like doesn't. It like I thought that date in London was gonna be like the turning point. And it was the opposite, you know?
How do you pull yourself out of feeling like you're in rock bottom?
I'm very much the person that, like, I don't ever, like, isolate. Like, I'm not the person that just, like, doesn't answer texts and, like, doesn't want to do things. Like, I'm the opposite. Like, I'll reach out to people more, try and, like, keep busy. Like, I'm very, yeah, like, I'll just try and, like, keep myself like stimulated, like, and try and just like do things. And I'm not saying that I'm like, this is just my like fight or flight response. Like I just go right into like trying to keep like so busy. But like in LA that was impossible. I didn't have anyone around, so it was just hard. Like moving out of LA and like back into New York was like the best thing for me. But yeah, like my tip is to always just like I heard someone on TikTok say this, like, fail fast. Like, you have to, like, if, like, a guy, it doesn't work with a guy, if something happens with your job, blah, 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 like, fail fast and just, like, move on. I know that's easier said than done. But for me, like, you just need to distract yourself from the rock bottom feelings. Yeah.
I want to quickly, before we wrap up, touch on getting let go.
Oh, yeah.
Because that, when you're 31, when you're any age, can be really scary and can almost feel like a rock bottom of like, I put my heart and soul into this job. Like now I have to start over. Like, how do I even explain this when they ask like why I'm looking for a new job? And also in dating, you know, I had a listener question recently actually about like, I just got laid off. I feel really embarrassed about it. What do I do on a date or on a dating app when somebody asks me what I do for job, like for my job?
Oh my God, they totally shouldn't feel that way. But yeah, I so admittedly did not put my heart and soul into that job. Was really not into it. At first, like because I was at that company for like a while. At first I was into it, but then they basically like forced me into this role that I begged them to not put me into. And so like getting let go wasn't really it was the energy shift I needed, and it frankly was very exciting because I was like, oh my God, because that job it had just become like busier and busier, and I was like, this is bullshit. Like they're not paying me. If you're gonna make me do this, you have to pay me more. I don't want to do this. Like I wanted to stay in the role that I was in. So it was just, and it was taking away from like working on my book, and like, you know, I was able like on the weekends to still work on my book, but in my head I was like, I really wish that I was able to put more, like it'd be really nice to get ahead of it and like start building up social media, and like I just didn't have the time. So getting let go, I was like, oh my God, like it felt like now I'm on the right path. Like I'm working on my book, I'm building up my social media, like I'm on the path that I actually want to be. Yeah, I'm sorry, this probably isn't really relatable to people who like liked their jobs, but yeah, it's better when you get let go from somewhere that you just like couldn't wait to get out of.
I love how much you would just like roll with the punches of life. I really, really do. It's inspiring, and it's also I think such a good representation of like, what you're writing about in your book of like things knock you down, but you get back up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really do hope that this book gets published so
that
this podcast episode isn't so awkward. But no, I think, so the way it works is like you, just so not everyone thinks I'm like totally delusional, you you get a literary agent and then they sell it to the publisher. So like after I did like my first draft, I sent it out to literary agents and like 2 got back to me. One of them gave me a bunch of feedback. So I've just been making that feedback, and then like once that's done, I'll send it back to her. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah. So and then I also kind of like stalked the other one. One of them is in Massachusetts. The other one, the one who gave me feedback, is in Massachusetts. The other one's in New York. And I like showed up at an event that I knew she'd be at, and I was like, "Oh my god, are you?" Like,
that's so funny.
And then
making it happen.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't know. I think it's as good as these other books I read, but the publishing industry, it's kind of sad. It's like, will this sell? Like, does this have the same formula as these other books?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And if it doesn't work out, I can self-publish it and like use social media to promote it, and then write another book, and then.
And when it does come out, you'll let me know, and I'll let everyone know.
Yes.
But this has been amazing.
Oh my god, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
Final question.
Yes.
What is the best piece of dating or relationship advice that you've ever received or have to give?
Pay attention to the people who are paying attention to you.
Love.
I definitely heard that I didn't like make that up. I don't know.
I've never heard that. I love it.
Maybe I just deducted it from all of this dating advice I listen to. But it's literally the only way to find someone. Do not give anyone attention on the apps. Like when I used to help this guy that I knew, like on the apps, and I would see that he wasn't answering these girls that were so into him and that like had like what he wanted, but he would like pay attention to these girls that weren't paying attention to him. It's like, this is why you're single. You have to only go on dates with people who are like showing a mutual interest.
Yeah. Why are you going to chase someone who doesn't want to chase you back?
Yeah, especially if you've never met them before.
Yeah.
Like if you're on the dating apps, pay attention to the people who are messaging you.
Yeah.
Like you can definitely double text and like follow up and stuff, but then like if it's not working out, like you gotta keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, love that. Thank you so much. This has been
so
fun.
much.
Where can everybody find you?
You can find me on all social media at Sydney Recaps, REKAPS, and it's misspelled because my last name is Kaplan.
It's the best name ever. And like in my mind, you are Sydney Recaps. You're not Sydney Kaplan.
Well, I have to give a shout out to this like girl I went to high school with who like I'm not
came up with it.
Yeah, she literally DM'd me. Like we're not like BFF at all, but she like DM'd me with like that idea. I was like, wait. Okay, thanks.
It's amazing, especially as a writer. Like you're recapping things that happened to you.
Okay, thank you. Because
it's amazing.
With branding, it's like, is this overkill? Like,
no,
but it's like you have to just hit them over the head.
Good.
I'm like, thank you.
It's so good.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, so I'm really trying to like, I want people to read my writing, and I spent a lot of time on this like essay, about London, and like if you're into celebrity tea, like there's literally some extremely juicy tea that I'll tell you when we're done on Julia Fox that I got that drunken night in London.
Oh my god.
And I wrote about it. It has to like it has to be behind a paywall because I can't.
Yep.
I'm like scared. But
send me a link. I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Sydney Recaps.
Yay. Amazing. Guys, go follow her and stay tuned for the book. It's gonna be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.